Hey guys, what's up? Today we're going to look at how to use custom character portraits in Baldur's Gate Enhanced Edition. There are two different steps we're going to go over, but there's not a lot of difference between them. First, we're going to explain how to add custom protagonist portraits, and secondly, we're going to explain how to override companion portraits with your own custom portraits. If you find this useful by the end, please remember to like it and maybe subscribe. It's my first Baldur's Gate video, and if it performs well, I'll make more videos like this. First of all, we'll go over the custom protagonist portraits because that's the easier of the two. The first thing you're going to want to do is open up your image editor. I like to use GIMP, which is pretty similar to Photoshop. Create a new file of 210 width and 330 height. Simply drag and drop the image you want to use, and use the scale or resizing tool to bring it to the appropriate size. If you want your width and height to scale evenly, make sure you link them. Next, you can save your work if you want. I don't bother with that stuff when I already have the source image, as I don't want too many copies of the same file cluttering up my folders. Then we're going to export the image as a bitmap or .bmp file. Make sure you click on Advanced Options and choose the 24-bit option. I always export things directly to my Documents folder and move them manually, just in case I export them to the wrong folder by accident. If I just send them to my Documents folder, I'll always remember where they are. From your Documents folder, there's also a Baldur's Gate Enhanced Edition folder, and behind that is a Portraits folder. Move your BMP to that Portraits folder, and you're good to go. As you can see, I have two portraits here, since I'm playing a multiplayer campaign with my girlfriend. If you're also playing with someone else, they'll have to have the same files as you to see the changes as well. Just send them the files, and have them move the files into the same location. Next are the companion portraits. This one's a little more involved. For our companions, we wanted to go with Imoen, who accidentally got equipped with a gender-swapping belt, Jaehaera, Nira, and Minsk. Khalid died, so we ended up with Jaehaera on her own, and we were going to try something similar with Minsk and Dinaher, but when we booted Nira out of the party, she never showed up at the Friendly Arm Inn as promised. So we ended up going with male Imoen, Jaehaera, Minsk, and Dinaher. But since we already made a Nira portrait, I'm just going to include that in this video as well. In any case, you'll go through all the same steps you did for the protagonist portrait, except when you export the file, you'll have to use a specific file name. Each companion has specific file names associated with them. You can get this list from the links below. In this case, we're creating Imoen's portrait, so we'll name it imoenl.bmp, and similarly, we'll go to the Advanced Options box and click 24-bit and then export it. This image is going to be the source for the large character portrait under Character Profiles. Next, we have to make a medium-sized image, so we're going to scale the whole image by clicking Image at the top and then Scale Image. Resize the image to 110 width and 170 height. You might want to unclick the chain link here, and there's a possibility your image might warp slightly. If that's the case, you'll have to edit your image a little bit until it is to your liking. But as long as it's the right width and height, it'll work. Then go through the export steps again, but make the file name imoenm.bmp. Again, export it at 24 bits. This file is going to be the medium portrait that you see on the sidebar, for example. Next, undo the scale image so we revert to the original larger portrait, and scale the image similarly to the previous step, except the width will be 38 and height will be 60. When we export this file, it'll be imoens.bmp, and 24 bits again. This portrait is going to be used in places a small portrait is necessary, like in the game lobby. Now we'll do the same thing with all of the other companions, making sure that we use the right file names for each portrait size, always saving it as a 24-bit BMP. I'll also show you some quick edits I had to do for Minsk and Boo, since our AI-generated images were struggling with either putting a hamster or a tattoo into the picture. I ended up generating a hamster image separately, and removing the background on Pixlr, link in the description. Then I dragged the hamster image into GIMP and resized it quite a bit so it would be the right size for human to hamster ratio in comparison to Minsk. I found a good spot I could put him, and just erased the part of the layer that made it look like he'd be peeking out from behind that fur collar. If you're making rough erases like this, I'd recommend sticking to areas where it would logically make sense for it to be rough, such as in this case, the fur from the collar would obscure some of the hamster's paws. Therefore, blurring or feathering makes a bit of sense. I also sharpened the resized hamster a bit so it wouldn't be as blurry after resizing. For the tattoo, I started out with an area selection of a circle in a new layer, and tried to make it oblong so that it could sensibly be a perfect circle if viewed from a 3x4 angle. I made sure it was aligned pretty close to Minsk's tattoo in his concept art as well. Then I just filled it in with purple gradients of the right shades to match Minsk's tattoo with the lighting of the source image. From the concept art, I also noticed that the tail of his tattoo has a sort of teardrop that goes over his eye and down his cheek. So I took the lasso tool and filled another gradient in that space. Next, it's just a matter of sectioning off areas you want to erase and going to town. Once I had something I was happy with, I'd just go through the same processes as the previous images, exporting the 3 file sizes as BMPs with the specific name for each portrait size. Next, we'll just take all the files we're going to use for the companion portraits, which I'll remind you, I exported to my documents folder. You can copy or cut them, whatever works best for you. We're then going to go to the default folder that Baldur's Gate Enhanced Edition installs to. In this case, d/Steam Library/Steam Apps/Common/Baldur's Gate Enhanced Edition. Yours may be in a different location, just figure out where that is. Once we're in that folder, we're going to then go to the override folder and paste the new files in there. The game is going to look through this folder for personalized files to override default game files with. It's a pretty cool feature. Now, when we open up the game, you'll see all of the portraits for both protagonists and companions are popping up with our new images. And that's all there is to it. I'll just remind you to like and subscribe if you would be so kind. If not, thanks so much for watching this far anyway. As I mentioned earlier, I don't have any other Baldur's Gate videos, but if I make some more somewhere down the road, some of them will be popping up on the screen for you to click right about now. Otherwise, thanks again, and I'll see you next time.